Hi everyone! Yes, we're in my bathroom. I don't know about you, but my bathroom has some of the best lighting, so I like to film in here. And second of all, I did take a shower, so if my hair is drying throughout this video and looks a little wonky, that's why. But I had a video request, or someone requested me to explain kind of how I go through the process of hiring seamstresses and whatnot. So I'm going to talk all about that today. As I mentioned in some of my other videos, feel free to just pop on some headphones, listen to me, go. I've seen some people put my videos on their TV and then like cook or something. Whatever you need to do, I'm not going to be showing you anything per se. I might put something up on the screen here and there, but I'll let you know when that part's up. But anyways, let's get right into it. So one of the first things that you need to figure out is when should you hire a seamstress? When do you need to take on more people to help you with your business? I'm sorry, but that's like one of the most exciting parts of growing and realizing that, hey, your little small business is doing well and growing, flourishing, whatnot. So what I recommend is that you make sure that you're having consistent sales. And what I mean by that is, let's say for 3 months, you're consistently hitting a sales goal that you have in mind. And then once you hit those goals, let's say that you are feeling like, okay, things are good. You know, I have a good set of loyal customers. I can kind of guarantee that I'm going to get these sales, you know, fingers crossed that everything goes well and whatnot. And then my second thing would be raise your prices around that point, because it does cost money. Spoiler alert, it does cost money once you hire seamstresses. So you want to make sure that you're still profiting to the best of your ability and whatnot. And if your products are in high demand and really consistently selling out and that sort of thing, then you want to test the waters and up your prices, you know, nothing crazy, something like $2 to $3 per item. And then if you're still consistently going at that mark, let's say for another month you have 2 more drops and you're still consistently selling out, then it's time to hire a seamstress. Now, in terms of why to hire a seamstress, it's just to help you as your business grows. That way you can maybe take on more orders, or if you just want to put some of the orders onto somebody else, you can start focusing on other things behind the scenes in your business. Whatever the case may be, it's just really helpful to have some other hands helping you, because at the end of the day, as your business grows, there's going to be a point where you cannot fulfill those orders anymore. There's going to be a point where you don't want to extend your turnaround time, but you also don't want to turn people away. So you really want to prepare for this as your business is growing. So once you've reached this point and you've decided that you want to hire on a seamstress or 2, the next thing is where to find them. Now, Facebook is a great platform, and that's where I have been able to find all of my seamstresses / potential seamstresses. And there's actually a few groups that you should join. The first one that I recommend is actually not a seamstress group. It's called Small Shop Success. I'll link all of these groups in the comments and in the description of this video so it's easier to find. But Small Shop Success is a group geared for small shop success, obviously. But it's a group where a lot of shop owners are there. And in fact, a lot of shops who might not be getting consistent sales and offer up their seamstress services can reply to you. So if you're looking for a seamstress, all I did was literally just comment, hey, is anyone available to help me out with my shop and do some seamstress work for me? And I included a little bit of an image or 2 of like what my items look like and that sort of thing, just so everybody knows the kind of skill level that's required. And then that's where I found one of my seamstresses. There is also seamstress groups. This is dedicated for shops to connect with the seamstresses, and there's some great groups there too. I'll be sure to link those down below. I think one is called Small Shop Seamstresses or Small Seamstress Connections, something like that. But the thing is that these are seamstresses that know how the game goes. They know about small shops. They know about turnaround time, made to order drops, ready to ship drops. They know what kind of communication is necessary between yourself and them, and all of that, so there's no surprises and everything can run smoothly. Now, the third way is to find some wholesale seamstresses. There are seamstresses who decide that they don't really want to open up a shop and they want to more so help out other shop owners, so they'll have a wholesale group, and you can also find some that way. So again, I'll be sure to post the links that I know of down below for you all, so it's super helpful and you can just find it really quickly. Next, we're going to talk about the kind of rhetoric and the kind of conversations you should be having when you think that someone might be the perfect fit for you. Now, when I'm posting in these groups, I try to post, I mean in the seamstress groups, not in the small shop success or the wholesale groups. When I'm posting specifically in the seamstress groups, I try to offer up as much information as possible. So for example, I would say, hi, my name is so-and-so, I own this shop, I'm looking for a seamstress or two, I'm looking for, 100 items in like a 2-week turnaround time, because it consistently I promise I know how to speak English, but I feel like anytime I film myself, I'm always tripping up. Anyways, and just let them know exactly what you're looking for. The more details, the better. I always tell them, I need you to have a serger, a cover stitch, a sewing machine. I want you to be comfortable with gathering, with elastic, with rolled hems, with hemming, just all sorts of things that you can include that will definitely benefit you in the long run, because there will be no surprises and anyone that applies will hopefully fit that criteria. And I also include that I do expect to have some references, so the more references the better, because unfortunately in the seamstress world there are a lot of unfortunate stories of seamstresses just not following through or shops not following through, and you definitely don't want to run into any of that. So again, make your posts have as much information as possible. And in those seamstress groups, the seamstresses themselves will reach out to you, they'll message you, they'll show you their work and whatnot, or they'll comment on the post and say, hey, message me, like I'm interested, that sort of thing. And if you want someone that's more close to wherever you live, definitely include that as well, because a lot of these seamstresses are going to be all over the country. And in my experience, I've only hired out-of-state seamstresses, so just definitely figure out if that's something that you're comfortable with, because you're going to have to be shipping back and forth and whatnot, so take that into account. Next, conversing with your potential seamstress. You want to ask as many questions as possible. I always like to make sure that they're comfortable with sewing, that they show me the inside seams of their pieces. This is really important. You want to see the quality of work before you even attempt to hire them, because if you don't want to waste their time if it's just not up to your standards, or if you know that once you send them the items and you get them back, like if it's going to be that quality, you don't want that quality, that sort of thing. So definitely be straightforward. You don't want to waste anyone's time. If they're not going to work out for you, just let them know that. But if everything looks good, you like their samples, you like the inside seams, you've talked a little bit over what kind of products you want to send them, definitely let them know. Oh, and also I forgot to mention that you want to specifically say if you want the seamstress to cut your fabric, to sew your items, or to cut and sew. Specifically for me, I want someone to do the whole thing. The more or the less work that I have to do, the better, so I just say it's for cut and sew. And once you've dabbled into all of those things, you definitely want to send them a few items pre-cut. That's just like standard in the seamstress world, I've noticed, is you send them a few items pre-cut, and then once you receive them back is when that will be the final evaluation. You can say, yes, welcome to my team, or something like that, or whatnot. And then you also want to communicate pricing, of course, how you're going to pay them, that sort of thing. I do recommend looking over a pricing sheet. There's one that circles around a lot of seamstress groups that is kind of like the generic in general pricing. For me specifically, I like to do $5 for cut and sew bottoms and $6 for cut and sew tops. That's just what has worked out for me. All the seamstresses that I've hired have generally accepted that, or I should say they've all accepted that. It sounds like, I don't know if it sounds like a lot or a little bit to you, but depending on their speed, it's a really good amount of money. And since they don't have to purchase the fabric, I supply all the fabric, I supply all the thread, needles, elastic, any notions that they might need. It's strictly just them getting paid for the work that they're doing, which of course you want to pay them for it. And another thing is I don't pay them until everything is finished. So once it's ready to be shipped is when I'll pay them. And then, of course, you want to revise everything and make sure that everything is good like that. Next up, I want to recommend to you to use a spreadsheet. This has been the easiest way that I've been able to make sure that, things are getting done, that my seamstresses know exactly what they're going to be doing and whatnot. And I even send them, sometimes I'll send them like videos of my hacks. A lot of my items, that was my daughter. A lot of my items are hacked. I like to make them special for my shop. So, I'll go ahead and show them videos and little mini tutorials and kind of how I hack the pattern / make the pattern. And just, you want to make sure that everything is 100% accurate, because of course you want everything in your shop to be consistent. If you're using, one seamstress, or if you're using 10 seamstresses, you want everything to be super consistent and that everyone is doing the same exact work for your brand. And then with the spreadsheet, I actually have a video about this. It's called something like how I get my orders out fast or something like that, how I get my orders out quickly. In that video, I go specifically over how I do my spreadsheet. Now I import all my orders from Shopify directly into the spreadsheet, and then I do some highlighting and, some corrections. Like I delete all their addresses and information that the seamstresses don't need. But for the most part, it's order number, their name, and then the item, size, fabric, everything like that is included as well. Just because you want to make sure that they know exactly what they're making. And then if your customer leaves notes, I also like to leave the notes on there, because sometimes, a customer will say, please add extra length. And of course, if your seamstress isn't aware of that, like, you want to make them aware of anything that might be slightly different or a request from your customer. After that, it's really just up to you and your seamstress to maintain that communication back and forth. Before I send out items, I say, here's the spreadsheet, does it look okay? And they'll be like, yes, and then I'll accept the work, and then I'll ship them the fabric. I find it easier to ship directly from the manufacturer, the supplier, whoever you're buying the fabric from, but sometimes it's fabric that I have on hand, so I'll ship it to them. And you just want to make sure that, you're giving them the tracking numbers and everything like that. Just communication, should be very direct, and there should be no questions up in the air about anything, But of course, if you have questions or if they have questions, that's why you have that communication. I've just been doing Facebook Messenger, and that's been working out for me. But if you want to do text messaging or something like that, definitely go for it. Now, the most important thing with hiring seamstresses, especially out of state, is making sure that you're going to maintain your turnaround time, because you have to factor in the shipping time from them getting the fabric, receiving the fabric, then all their production time. You want to make sure that that's, very, very, very clear on what the production time should be, and then the shipping time back. So I like to give myself 6 weeks for this. That is kind of a long turnaround time, but I don't want to leave room for any errors. This gives me time if I'm doing custom fabric for my supplier to get the fabric to them, and then for the seamstress to do all the work, and then, like an extra week for them to ship it back to me, and then another week or so for me to review all the products, all the items that are finished, and package them all up and everything like that. So quality control is definitely important. If you ever notice something off or different, definitely let your seamstress know. It should be just normal. Or what I mean is, don't feel bad. You have to tell your seamstress, like, hey, can you make sure that you do this or that? I did have one incident where one of my seamstresses, I let her know what pattern it was, but I forgot to mention that the pattern needed to be printed a certain way because it was a foreign pattern, like it was made in a different country. And sometimes, those don't convert well over to the paper that we use, which is the 8.5 by 11. So there was an incident where she accidentally, like, it wasn't her fault at all, I should have communicated this, but accidentally she made a lot of my items, it was like something like 20% smaller than they needed to be. And when I received them, I noticed it right away. So I let her know, hey, next time, can you make sure that the pattern is printing correctly? For situations like that, I did end up paying the seamstress, but, if I could have had her redo them, but I noticed that 20% off wasn't the worst thing ever. And instead of, an item being like 2T, I made it be like 12 months instead. I kind of worked around it. And again, it wasn't her fault at all. Even though most patterns do have that 1-inch square. I mean, like you or me. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I never check that 1-inch square. Like, I'm just pretty confident that's going to print correctly. But again, that's why you want to give yourself ample time for your turnaround time in case anything like that does happen. And then, of course, if a package will sometimes arrive late. I've had packages where either I'm sending it to my seamstress or my seamstress is sending it back to me, and it's in transit but arriving late. Then you're kind of panicking because you're wait, we're close to the turnaround time. So again, just give yourself ample time. Now, another thing that I forgot to mention is making sure that your seamstress doesn't run out of supplies. For example, I use a lot of elastic and even some cord elastic for some of my items. So I always like to make sure and check in hey, are you still okay on this elastic? Are you running out or anything like that? And then I'll make sure to, reorder it for them and whatnot. Or sometimes I'll suck at calculating how much fabric to send them, and then they run out, and then they'll communicate to me hey, I don't have enough of this fabric, and then I'll either make it myself or send them extra fabric. Okay, now on to more of a wholesale type of seamstress. It's literally going to work the exact same way, but you do have to make sure that you're aware that they are also sewing for other shops. I prefer to have seamstresses that are only sewing for my shop, but if they do happen to be a wholesale seamstress, then I like to make sure that I communicate, extra well. Hey, are you going to be able to take on this order for me? And let them know how big it is and whatnot beforehand. Just very well communicate that what it's going to be so that they can tell me, oh yes, I can take it on, or oh no, I'm kind of booked up already. Some seamstresses that are wholesaling will only take on a certain number of spots, so it just depends if they're more communicative over that or if you have to ask yourself. Now, another thing that I was worried about is giving up all of my shop hacks and little tidbits over the items that make them special for my shop, and you just definitely want to communicate that with your seamstresses. Let them know hey, I won't be comfortable with you using this hack to sell in your shop and things like that, and they should totally be understanding. Maybe if they have a shop of their own, or like I mentioned, if they're a wholesale seamstress, just let them know hey, please do not add this item with my personal hacks to your shop or to your wholesale shop. And because you should be able to do that, because if you create your own hacks, then you should be able to feel comfortable that they're not going to all of a sudden share them with the world and they're going to be mass produced all over the place. I do know that some people that contract seamstresses will do contracts, the non-compete contracts and other things like that. If you want to go that route, definitely do it if you want to protect yourself in that way. I'm just more relaxed, and I don't know, I trust people, and if I let them know hey, please don't use this, I trust that they won't use it, and I haven't had any issues with that. if they want to use it for their own personal items, I don't mind, but as long as they're not selling it, then that's all that I care about. I'm trying to think of what else I missed, but I think that is pretty much it. If you have any other further questions, do let me know, but like I said, I'll be linking the places where I found my seamstresses down below. Oh, I forgot to mention, I've had as many as 4 seamstresses at a time, and it does get a little wild, but as long as you have your spreadsheets and you know what you're sending to who, and you can kind of gauge when you should be expecting things from people, you should be totally fine. Just make sure that everything is super organized that way, because of course you don't want to let your customers hanging. I did have a couple issues with, things going over turnaround time, but of course, as long as you communicate with everybody, you should be totally fine, and just go for it, honestly. If you're ready to grow your shop, hire on a seamstress, maybe just take a little bit of your workload off of your own shoulders, definitely go for it. I do recommend it. And yeah, that's it for me. So I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye!